Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and the first round of the NFL draft finally happened. So I've got a reaction video here to kind of talk about some players that their stock has risen, and of course some players that may have dropped based off of what happened last night. All right, so I'm going to talk about those players. Let's get right into it. All right, so I'm going to talk about what players have gone last night. And again, this is all fantasy related, more so dynasty related, but of course will help you with your redraft leagues as well with that summer coming up. Probably start doing redrafts or mock drafts real soon. I'm going to kind of do this in the order that these players were drafted and where I feel is going to help impact them or where other players got affected. So the first thing I want to talk about is going to be the Atlanta Falcons. They were the first team, to draft a offensive weapon, which was Drake London. Now, here's my initial stand on Drake London. I like the pick. I think I understand why they went with the pick. Drake London's obviously a nice big receiver, and I think they wanted that opposite of Kyle Pitts, who I think Kyle Pitts' stock has definitely risen with the fact that Drake London is there. I'm not super crazy about it. I had Garrett Wilson a little bit higher than Drake London, but that's okay. I mean, I think what they're trying to do for Atlanta, I think this is probably the right pick for them. I think he's got obviously big playability. If you guys haven't, make sure you check out my other video about my wide receiver rankings. But I like the Drake London pick. I don't think there's anything wrong with this pick at all. And like I said, this definitely helps him out with his stock, especially with the rookie drafts coming up in our fantasy leagues. And then again, increases Kyle Pitts a lot. And I think it slowly increases Mariota. Obviously, there was some still speculation of quarterbacks being out there. Mariota might not be the guy in the future, but we'll see how that plays out this first year, obviously in Atlanta. But I do like the pick. I think this is a good pick for him and a good pick for Pitts and Mariota. I'm kind of excited for it. We'll see. This is a little bit more, again, I think Garrett Wilson would have been the perfect pick, but I do like Drake London. Now, with Garrett Wilson, the Jets took him right afterwards, and I love Garrett. He's my wide receiver one into this draft. I'm not super crazy about where he went, but I will say this. Zach Wilson's stock has risen. Elijah Moore's stock has risen, okay? I know some people might sell him off now because some of his shares gone, but I like the pick. I think Garrett Wilson will help with the opposite side of Elijah Moore. I don't think it hinders him at all. It definitely increases the stock of Zach Wilson. So any of you guys who have put some shares into Zach Wilson, I think this is going to help benefit you. Does also, I think, just because I think about, obviously the second round hasn't happened, but Michael Carter, I think his stock has risen a little bit. Think about it. Michael Carter was really the biggest weapon because Elijah Moore was hurt a lot last year. So he was affected a lot. Yeah, I think with Michael Carter, I think his stock has risen only because of the fact that now you've got two bookends on the opposite side of each other that is only going to help really have defensive have to actually scheme properly for them. So again, Zach Wilson's stock has gone up. I love Garrett Wilson's stock. He's going to be a nice solid wide receiver 1-2. We'll see how that works out with Elijah Moore. I think Elijah Moore is built more for the slot side. And then, of course, Corey Davis has been affected. So anybody who happened to have still had Corey Davis in your roster, I have him in a couple of my leagues, unfortunately. His stock has definitely dropped drastically. And unfortunately, with the signing of what they spent, I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't know what their plan is because they did spend a little bit of money of bringing him in. And, of course, drafting Elijah Moore last year. But Garrett Wilson's a good pickup. I love the pick. Next, we have the Saints who picked Chris Olave. Again, Olave, I definitely had a little bit lower. I think I had him at the 4th or 5th wide receiver. I had Treylon Burks higher than that. But I understand the concept. You have Chris Olave, who's got some great speed, opposite of Michael Thomas, who, again, is our slant king of the world. And then, of course, Jameis Winston, who's got a deep, deep arm who can really get you down the field. So I think, again, this is a good position. You got Olave, who's going to be deep down the field. And we'll see how this coaching staff is. This is different, right? We don't have Sean Payton there anymore. But he's opposite of Michael Thomas, who's one of the best route runners in the league, one of the best hands in the league, as long as he stays healthy. And then again, you have Winston, who's got a great arm, and he's got a lot to prove. I've watched a couple things with him. He is ready to prove that he is the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. But Deontay Harris was affected, so he was technically the wide receiver too. I think this is obviously going to drop his stock, so make sure you guys are aware of that if you guys have him in any of your dynasties. But Deontay Harris definitely took a little bit of a beating. Again, having a good receiver out there helps the running back, right? Alvin Kamara, depending obviously the court situation going on with him, but Alvin Kamara's stock has definitely risen again. It's just adding these weapons. I love this. This little bit of the draft last night was exciting. Like the first little bit was obviously offensive line, defensive line, trying to see what these teams were going to do. And then all of a sudden, bam, wide receivers galore. And it was glorious. I was a previous wide receiver back in my heyday. I love that position, and I'm so excited to see what these guys are going to do. Now, the next team, which was obviously a shocker, the Lions traded up, and they went Jameson Williams. Obviously, Jameson Williams is probably one of those sleeper wide receivers that I think might end up being one of the best wide receivers in this draft. Obviously, with his injury, that was a big concern. He is definitely a big playmaker. Opposite now of St. Brown, which is going to be awesome. A good, nice dual core. And then, of course, Goff's stock has gone up. I actually went after Jared Goff a few times because I was able to get him pretty cheap, just because I have a little bit of faith in him, but I do have him in a couple of my leagues. And the fact that now he's got Jameson Williams, who should be healthy into the season, hopefully. Then you got Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and then you still have Hawkinson coming back from an injury. Then you have Swift in the backfield. That offense actually looks really, really good. It's going to be one of those offenses, that might surprise you just because, again, everyone's notorious with the Lions of being a pretty poor team. But Swift, Hawkinson, St. Brown, now Williams, I love what they did. I'm glad that a little bit of a risk going up, like I said, but I love that they were aggressive. They went after, they wanted to get the receiver that they wanted. I love the pick. I think this is a great move. All those players on that offense, their stock has absolutely risen. Of course, after this weekend, I'll be updating and putting a nice dynasty ranking and, of course, a redraft ranking, so that way you guys are updated, and I'll share that with you guys. Next team that actually drafted a nice wide receiver was going to be the Commanders at Jahan Dotson. I like the pick. Definitely helps Carson Wentz having a nice wide receiver opposite. Does hurt Curtis Samuel. I had him in a couple of my leagues. Obviously, he was injured last year. He might still be a big play with the slot position. But McLaurin, I still feel neutral. I think I've seen a few people kind of tweet out and kind of make comments that McLaurin's stock has kind of dropped. The fact that you have his contract situation. Now they went after a receiver, and maybe, that might be the reason why they went with receiver. Maybe something's going to happen with McLaurin. But right now, there's no real news or rumors about him being traded. I think their plan is obviously to keep him. But McLaurin stock right now, I'm keeping at a neutral stance with him. I have not decreased him or increased him yet. But I don't think it's a horrible thing. But it definitely helps Carson Wentz, and I think it helps Antonio Gibson. Anything you add more receivers definitely helps the running back and quarterback. So their stock has absolutely gone up. I do like the pick with Jahan Dotson. Again, we'll talk about one of the players that I was kind of surprised, but there's still some good receivers left. Now, the Titans was one of the bigger moves into this draft night. So the Titans traded away A.J. Brown to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I hate that just because I'm a Cowboys fan. I hate that they're adding more talent, but Titans did that for a reason. One, a lot of it had to do with the fact that A.J. Brown early in his career had some soft tissue issues. That was obviously a concern. And then, of course, he's asking for a big payday. This was their kind of way of saying, hey, we're not going to pay you. We don't think it's quite worth it yet. We wanted to have your rookie your deal play out, and it did not happen. So they traded him and went Treylon Burks. Now, Treylon Burks should have gone higher, and that's just my opinion. Does kind of worry me a little bit, the fact that he did drop so low in the first round, if that makes sense. But I think Titans got a good pick out of Treylon Burks. I don't think he's an A.J. Brown. I'm just going to be upfront with that. I don't think he's an A.J. Brown type talent, but Treylon Burks' stock obviously has gone up. He's going to be really the wide receiver 2 opposite of Robert Woods. I think Robert Woods' stock has gone up a lot, actually, because now you've got him really being the wide receiver 1. Now, as far as the Eagles standpoint, I think Devontae Smith's stock has dropped a little bit, just a little bit. A.J. Brown's stock, I think, dropped a little bit. Just because obviously I'm not completely sold on Jalen Hurts, but I believe Hurts' stock has definitely risen. The fact that he's super excited for A.J. Brown, I think there was kind of like a little tweet maybe a month or so ago that they kind of like joked around about coming to Philly, and A.J. Brown kind of shut it down, but it actually happened. It was a really cool tweet that Jalen Brown put out there in FaceTiming, and they're super excited about it. I think be kind of a surprise. If you have Hurts, keep him. You might be able to put him in trade block, maybe get some good draft capital or some good players. But but I wouldn't quite move him as far as a dynasty standpoint quite yet. He did finish QB9 last year in fantasy, and now you add an AJ Brown opposite of Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith, I just have him a little bit down in stock. I think both the receivers kind of hurt a little bit with themselves because they were the wide receiver ones. So we'll see how that goes, and obviously I'll put that in the rankings when I drop those after this weekend. But I do like that. Now, as far as the Titans side, I have a neutral stance with Tannehill right now just because, again, Robert Woods is a good addition for him. I think Burks will definitely be a good play. I'm kind of in a standstill right now with Tannehill, but I do like the pick. I like Treylon Burks. I think he went a lot lower than I anticipated, and I really thought he was going to go a lot higher. I do like the pick. I think he's one of those little steals that you might see going in this draft, but I do like it. Now, another trade that did also happen before I continue would be Hollywood Brown. Marquise Brown got traded to the Cardinals. I think his stock has gone up. Murray's stock has gone up. Now you've added another weapon opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. Now Rondale Moore's stock has dropped some, not a lot, just some. A lot of people had a lot of shares in him because a lot of people believed and thought he was going to be the next up and coming stud wide receiver, but his stock dropped. Just the fact that I think Murray did this to make sure he got a receiver and he got Hollywood Brown. I do believe it hurts Lamar Jackson for now, just because you're losing a weapon like that. Obviously, Rashad Bateman's stock has absolutely gone up for the Ravens, so make sure you can, if you already have him, make sure you hold him. If you can get him, you're going to be paying a little bit more this time. But again, I think Lamar Jackson's stock has dropped a little bit. Obviously, he's still a top-tier quarterback in Dynasty, just the fact that what he can do with his legs. But without adding those weapons, Rashad Bateman skyrocketed. Obviously, Mark Andrews still the top tight end. I think he's tight end number one in fantasy in dynasty rankings. And then, like I said, Hollywood Brown and Murray's stock has gone up on that. Now, while as we continue, the surprise of the draft was Kenny Pickett to the Steelers. I was really surprised. There were so many mock drafts that had Malik Willis going. And I was just completely surprised by this. I do understand why. Obviously, he played locally, played at Pitt. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers saw it all year. They saw what he can do. He was one of the top tier quarterbacks going into it. And then Malik Willis came out of nowhere and kind of stole the show with his ability and his upside. But I think he was more of the safer bet when it comes to Kenny Pickett. And this definitely hurts Trubisky. I don't think Pickett plays this year. I do think Trubisky is going to be the starter. But I will say Pickett is one of those type of players that I think if you can get him in the late first, early second round in your fantasy, I think that's a good one for you. I'd put him on a taxi squad for the year and then kind of see where things go. But I like the move by the Steelers. I knew they were going to go quarterback. I was just kind of surprised that it went to Pickett instead of Malik Willis, but I understand the move. I still think Desmond Ridder is one of those sleepers that have not been obviously called yet. We'll see when the second and third rounds drop, but I do like the pick. So the last thing I want to mention before I end the video is going to be obviously Green Bay Packers did not go wide receiver. Don't be surprised by that. They typically don't draft a wide receiver in the first round. And on top of that, the best receivers were already gone by the time Green Bay drafted. So right now, my stock with Aaron Rodgers is still neutral. Nothing's really changed, but he does need some weapons. And of course, Patrick Mahomes didn't get any new weapons. So that's kind of something to kind of keep an eye on. Obviously, with the second and third rounds is where you get some of the best dynasty players and fantasy players, in my opinion. So it's going to be exciting. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Friday. So I'm excited for that. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hopefully give you a little bit of insight what you might want to be doing for trade blocks and trades and all that fun stuff in your dynasty. Like I said, I'll be dropping after this weekend the latest wide receiver or the rankings for all these positions for your dynasty and redrafts. Again, if you have not already, hit the subscribe button. Make sure that notification bell is on. That way you guys are notified every time we drop a video just like this. Of course, hit the like button. We guys are greatly appreciated. And if not, always hit up our Twitters and our Instagram to follow us on there as well. Of course, ask us questions. And of course, hit us in the comments. Let us know how the draft went. Who was your favorite player? And I'll check you guys next time.